A familiar scene in an unfamiliar setting. The Toronto suburb of East York. And this is the Orange Order Canadian style.
How about a nice hand now for the Ulster Accordion Band and their majorettes? We'll be back a little later on in the program.
Down the years, the Orange Order grew in numbers and in strength. In the 1830s, for instance, many of them died helping to put down a rebellion inspired by Irish Americans and aided by the French Canadians. In the 1860s, many also died repelling the Fenian raids directed by Irish Americans across Lake Ontario into Canada. They had their brushes with the law, as members of the Orange Order have had, of course, back home in Northern Ireland. But eventually they became respectable, they identified with the government, and for many years they helped dominate the municipal affairs of the growing city of Toronto. But above all, they were loyal sons of empire.
Loyal sons of empire they still appear to be, but their numbers and their influence are much reduced. This band practice was a rehearsal for the 12th of July celebrations in the city centre. Once, it was like the 12th in Belfast, but now, the small crowds here can easily be accommodated in the municipal garden of the East York municipality in the Toronto outskirts. The Canadian Orange Order seems to be sustained largely by Ulster exiles, but its own history does not emphasise the Ulster connection.
An alderman of
Leslie R. Saunders is a former mayor of Toronto and a former Grand Master of the Orange Order of Canada.
Alderman Leslie Saunders.
Thank you very much. This is a happy experience for me. 2 years ago, I was privileged to bring greetings on behalf of the Borough of East York, and last year when I was mayor, I presented the greetings myself.
But his appeal is mainly to the local municipal spirit and not to the Ulster tradition. He upholds the Queen as the guarantee of religious freedom, not just in Northern Ireland, but in Canada. But he admits that the influence of the order here is not what it was.
Like everything else has declined. Service clubs, churches, lodges, every society has declined in membership, and I imagine that's true the world over. I belong to another society which had at one time a much larger membership. It has declined too. Apparently lodges do not make an appeal to the younger generation, and that's happened ever since the war. What happened are the Orange Lodges in the First World War we gave so generously and lost so many, and when some of them came back after being 2 or 3 or 4 years in the services, naturally they wouldn't settle down to lodges. And then in the Second World War, the rest of our young men enlisted, and we lost a lot of lodges, and we didn't replace them when the war was over.
Do you think what the Orange Order stands for in Canada, the monarchy and Protestantism, perhaps sometimes aggressive Protestantism, is out of date, is no longer in tune with the view of most Canadians?
No, I believe the great bulk of people in Canada are interested in having the monarchy as it presently is, with the Queen as the Queen of Canada. And Protestantism is still virile, and one of perhaps the strange thing is that there's a steady growth in what we call the evangelical churches in Canada, which are definitely and strongly Protestant.
What is your attitude towards Roman Catholics in Canada?
Oh, I'm not anti-anything any more than I'm anti-communist or anti-something else. The Orange Society has never been anti, it's been pro-Protestant, and any time there's been any clash religiously or in politics, it's because the governments were prepared to give further concessions to the Roman Catholic schools, and those concessions always meant that Protestant taxpayers were shelling out, and I object to that. And when we put on a campaign, no matter what size the Orange Society was, we were able to carry public opinion.
What would be your attitude to, say, the Reverend Ian Paisley and to the various Protestant militants?
I'm not interested in Paisley. I'm not a Paisleyite, and I don't think the Orange Society in this country are Paisleyites.
Do they not stand for at least roughly the same sorts of things?
No. I think we're one with the official position of the Orange Society in the north of Ireland. And they, of course, don't go along with Paisley, and Paisley's been split with his own group, and I believe they read him out at Westminster here not many weeks ago.
What is your attitude towards some degree of Canadian support for Protestant paramilitary violence in Northern Ireland?
Support for whom?
What is your attitude to some degree of support among Canadians for Protestant paramilitary violence in Northern Ireland?
There hasn't been any that I'm aware of.
I also spoke to Gordon Keyes, a man who emigrated from Fintona 50 years ago and who's been secretary of the Orange Order of the World.
Well, the basic principles of the order are the same wherever they exist, and they're simply equal rights to all and special privileges to none, civil and religious liberty to all men, irrespective of class, colour or creed.
But do you find it a comforting thing, or is it perhaps something which is rather odd, that people in Canada still take an interest in Northern Ireland, or in fact, do they take much of an interest in Northern Ireland?
Well, of course, the people that have ties, family ties with Northern Ireland, naturally have a sympathetic ear, but they're Canadians. Once they're here for, say, a year or more, they're Canadians and devoted to this country as Canada.
Despite affirmations that the Canadian Orange Order will survive, there's considerable doubt that it will last. There's an impression, too, that it relies substantially on Ulster exiles, but for an exclusively Canadian purpose. For these are Canadian nationalists, and they will find it hard to resolve the contradiction between the Canadian present and the imperial past.